I'm late. First rule of leadership, never say you're sorry, right? What do you think?
No,
It's okay to say sorry. Yeah? It's okay to say sorry. Okay. So, thank you very much. We met briefly this morning. At least I met this gentleman. I didn't get to meet many of the others. We have students here from how many countries?
9 countries.
9 countries, right? And those countries are India, Bangladesh, Philippines, Cambodia,
Thailand.
Không Thai mình xin làmเลย.
Malaysia.
Malaysia, where else?
Vietnam.
Vietnam, very good.
Pakistan.
Pakistan, very good. Any others? Have we missed anybody? Very good. Okay, so I'm very lucky because I get to talk about leadership first. So I get to define what leadership means, right? You're going to hear a lot of different things about leadership from different people, and but I get to say first of all what leadership is. But first of all, I want you to do a little bit of thinking for yourself, and we're going to look at 2 questions, and we've got leadership in a number of languages here. How are we doing? Mostly correct? Yeah? So if we take, let's see, we've got Arabic, we've got Urdu here, right?
That's
So we've got the word for leadership and we've got the word for leader. So what's that?
Yeah, that's correct. Qiyadat,
Qiyadat?
leadership.
Yeah?
Rahnuma, leader.
Rahanama. Yeah?
Rahnuma, leader.
And that's leader. And there's no problem understanding what that means, right?
No problem.
Very good. So then we can take, let's see, what else have we got? We have some loud people from Thailand at the back here, right? So can we read this?
Hunam.
Hunam, and then we have Kwamben Hunam. Correct?
Yeah.
You're happy with that meaning? Yeah? Again, sorry?
No, I think you very good at Thai.
Very good at Thai. But we're not here to study Thai. You can teach your Thai friends during this week if you have time. Huh? So first Thai word, Hunam. Hunam, right? And then Filipino. You're from the Philippines, right?
Yes.
What about this? Pinuno and Pamumuno.
Pinuno and Pamumuno.
Is that okay? And also we've got Lida, Liderato. Is that also possible?
Yes. Yes.
Both are possible. So we've got this one, which looks a bit Spanish, because we've also got this, which is Spanish. And then we have this one, Führer, which is interesting as well.
Adolf Hitler.
Adolf Hitler was the Führer, right?
Yeah.
So we don't want to talk about Führer, but Führer just means leader in German, right? It doesn't have any special meaning. So whereas the Spanish, they seem to have taken our word in English, and then they seem to have given it to the Filipinos very kindly. Yeah? And then probably the Americans said, leader, that works, yep, leader is okay. Führer seems to be a problem. And what about this one? What language?
French.
French language, yeah. And chef maybe is a better definition. Chef is a better word for us to work with than Führer, maybe. Because Führer has those negative meanings, but chef, what's a chef?
A cook.
What is a chef? It's a cook, yeah, but we talk about a chef, not a cook, right? So a chef is what does a chef do?
An expert cook.
It's an expert cook. It's the person, the man or the woman that leads the kitchen, right? So when you have a great restaurant, you have to have a great chef, and the chef is somebody that leads the team. But it's not an ideal definition of leadership for all purposes. It works for some purposes, such as a kitchen in a high-quality restaurant, but it doesn't work for all purposes, right? What else have we got? Any other interest? There's a few of those words I can't read. We have Cambodians, right? How are we doing? How's the Cambodian there? Khmer. Here we have Khmer, right?
Yes.
This is also right. So what have we got for Khmer? Can you read that? Huh? Mei Dat Nom.
Yes.
Okay, that doesn't sound like anything I know, but are you happy with that? I'm really sorry. I've lived here all these years and I haven't learned enough Khmer to know if the answer is yes or no. But you're happy with the meaning there.
Yes.
What else have we got? What about Hindi?
Second class.
Second last here. Yeah. It's okay.
Neta.
Neta. Yeah. Neta. And for leadership. Netrutva. Yeah. I saw that written and I thought that's a difficult one to say. Right? Okay. And then Bengali, Bangla.
It goes same. Neta.
and Netritto.
Netritvo. Okay, so it's similar, right? So, okay. So we think we know what this is all about, right? So it should be fairly easy, right? Okay, goodbye, I finished. You want to hear some more? Okay, let's see what we've got. Who is a leader? I'm going to talk about leaders in this sense. A leader could be a teacher. A leader could be a manager, a project team leader, a supervisor, right? It could be a mother or a father. I mentioned mothers before fathers. You notice that? So with all of the other people, I think are gender neutral, but a mother and a father both can be leaders, right?
Yeah.
You get that one? So you also get how a teacher can be a leader, right? And then we've got an entrepreneur, and we've got a sports team captain, right? And I think this is probably the leadership that most of us are most familiar with when we're young, right? Because how many of you play sports? How many of you play team sports? Team sports. Individual sports is a different thing. Then we can talk about self-leadership. But team sports, what do you play?
Cricket.
Cricket. And Bangladesh is very good at cricket now.
Yes.
Very, very good. Not as good as India. But getting there.
Yeah.
Getting there.
I don't know. I doubt that.
Getting there. Pakistan is better than India as well, but we have to be careful when we say that, right?
Yeah.
Pakistan also beat England, just so that we're clear, right?
Bangladesh also beats England.
So the sports team captain is clearly an example of a leader, right? And a colleague can be a leader as well. And a friend. How can a friend be a leader?
By mobilizing toward a common goal.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, we're going to look at how that, maybe I can come back to that particular meaning of a friend being a leader later. Yes, sir?
So I'm going through some period of depression. I call a friend. Well,
Yeah.
there are only one or two friends like that.
Yeah.
And he gets me out of it. So
Yeah.
he's kind of a leader in that sense.
So that's a friend who listens to you and he's there to support you, right? So those are interesting definitions that we can work into our definition of leadership. Somebody who will listen to you and somebody who will support you. And somebody who maybe can advise you on what to do to solve a problem. Yeah, and friends work together. And most of us have friends, and then when we were kids, there was always the person who was the leader of the group, right? Who was the one who led the others to do certain things. But your definition is absolutely correct. Somebody who listens and supports and helps a friend who needs help, right? And then we've got an expert. So experts can also be leaders. And the one thing I haven't mentioned here is what? Politics. Right? I don't want to talk about politics. I want to make it clear. Because when we did this course in January, the first Tagalion course, I mentioned a couple of political leaders because at that time there's a famous country in the West, and at that time a very nice leader was being replaced by another leader, and I thought that this was a good example, but it was a very bad example. It was a terrible example, because really then when I gave you the next task, everybody focused on politicians. And if you're from the Philippines and you think about your lovely leader, what's his name? Rodrigo Duterte.
Yeah.
Lovely man. Lovely, lovely man. Right? And all of us have got wonderful examples in our countries, right? Not everybody thinks that Hun Sen is a great leader. But, and I think the Prime Minister of my country is a terrible leader. But that's all we're going to say about politics. The definition, when we think about leaders, we want to think about these people, right? We want to think about teachers, managers, project team leaders, supervisors, mothers and fathers, entrepreneurs, sports team captains, etc. Yeah? Leadership in daily life, because that's where we're going to draw the important lessons from. Not from politicians. Forget about politics. No more politics today, right? Politics is dangerous, right? We don't want to talk about Modi or Sharaf or anybody else,
Nawaz
or
Sharif.
Nawaz Sharif, or any of the other wonderful leaders that we have in this region. The Thai Prime Minister. No, I'm talking about those people. Okay, so these are, again, some of the things that we expect leaders to do. And we've already hit on some of these when we've got our friend from Pakistan. What's your name, sir?
Jilani.
Jilani. Jilani.
Yeah.
Okay, where are you from in Pakistan?
Lahore.
Lahore. Very good. I know Lahore very well. I love your city.
So you're welcome anytime.
Active leadership, active listening then is what you described in terms of the friendship. And then building followership. This is nice because you've got leaders and followers, but it's not very useful in terms of understanding what a leader does, right? We know that leaders have followers. But it may also be the case that everybody in a team should be a leader, right? So building followership is nice, but I'm going to put that aside for the moment because it's too vague. This is not vague. Active listening, very clear. Building the next generation of leaders. So leaders create other leaders. That's also tough. This is about succession planning. It's about leadership in many senses here. It's also a little bit vague in terms of how we do it, and I'm going to leave that for other people to describe. Helping others achieve the impossible. This is a very nice thing, but if it's impossible, why are we trying to do it? So the impossible is not really impossible here, right? What we mean by the impossible is the very difficult or the very unlikely. But the impossible, again, is a little bit vague. Being the solution to problems. I like this. I like this a lot. Being the solution to problems. I think this is really important. And I think that's what teachers do. I think that mothers do it and fathers do it. And I think that many of the people mentioned on the previous screen, they do it too, right? Open, authentic, and positive influence. You like that?
Yes.
A leader is somebody who influences openly, positively, and authentically. And I can tell you, as you go through your careers, you will meet many so-called people, leaders, who are not open or positive or authentic. Right? My wife works for an organization called the Stockholm Environment Institute. They have centers in 9 different countries, or nine centers in about 6 or 7 countries. None of your countries, only Thailand. Siam Square. And there is one of the center directors in another country was sent an email to her colleagues saying, please let me know if any of your colleagues are absent from work or if they are doing something wrong. This is very negative behavior, right? So it's okay to solve problems, but then a message like that sends a very negative message. Yeah? It's also not very open, because you're actually setting people up to spy on each other. That's not good, right? We don't want to spy on each other, and a good leader shouldn't be encouraging people to spy on each other. Giving people the tools they need to succeed. What do you think of that?
Skill building.
Huh?
Skill building.
Skill building,
skills.
yeah. Skill building, but it could also be attitudes, right? Tools can be attitudes, and it can be knowledge. So it can be knowledge, and it can be skills, and it can be attitudes. Anything else? KSA covers most things that we learn, right? Knowledge, skills, attitudes, covers pretty much everything that we want to learn. What's leadership? Knowledge, skills, or attitude? It's a combination of all, isn't it? It's definitely, leadership involves an attitude. There's an attitude in this. Knowing your team and yourself well. Knowing your team well and yourself well. Yeah? This seems to work, doesn't it, as something we can build a definition of. And building consensus and common goals. Clarity, confidence, and courage. Okay, so some of these things are useful here, but not all of them are useful. But we can get the general picture about what we're looking for, right? Now, what I'd like to do, this room isn't really set up for group work, but maybe I can ask you just to, what's the best way here? Maybe work in pairs is the easiest way. And then what I'd like you to do, I'll come to this first, because this is a useful working definition here. Leadership is a process of social influence which maximizes efforts of others towards achievement of a goal. Right? This, I think, is a useful working definition. And the critical term here is this one, social influence. Right? It's about social influence. So whether you're a teacher, or a mother, or a father, or an entrepreneur, or a supervisor, or a manager, this seems to work. These people are all in social situations. So a social situation can be a situation in an organization. A family is an organization too, right? Has anybody here ever worked? You've worked. What have you done? Sorry?
Those of you asked for it.
Okay, so you've done some very practical work. It's mostly individual work or teamwork?
It was teams, it's probably a team.
Yeah. Okay, yes sir?
I worked as a planning intern in a private firm and a government firm.
Okay, worked as an intern, yeah? As a
Yes.
planning intern.
Planning.
So you were given specific tasks to,
Yes.
to work on. Okay, very good. Anybody else? Mostly students, right? Okay, so I'm kind of setting you up for life. I'm kind of giving you this as a very broad thing. So when we're talking about social influence, we're talking about any situation that involves social interaction. And that's why I wanted to start by talking about mothers and fathers and teachers and friends and colleagues, because we must get away from thinking of leadership as something that older men in formal clothes do, right? It's not about how you dress or how old you are. It's about the situations that you're in, right? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay? And if you disagree with me, let me know, okay? Please? Polite question? Right, so this is the pair work. And what I want you to do is to just think about the, one person who you could say is the worst leader, yeah? And I think the answers here should be fairly straightforward, but just do it together, and you can both think of somebody. So everybody's got somebody they can talk to, right? More or less. I think there's an uneven number. We have 25 people here, right? So maybe the three of you together. Yeah? And maybe you're going to have to work a little bit more quickly because you've got to talk about 3 people now. So just share some notes on the worst leader that you've ever known. Okay? Just give you 5 minutes on that. A worst leader that you know. We have a volunteer. And you can volunteer somebody in your group if you prefer.
You want the name on it?
No names. I don't like, absolutely no names.
Character of a leader.
Just, so I said, think about a leader,
Yes.
and then tell me what that person did. So first of all, you have to have somebody in mind, right? That could be a teacher, a mother, blah, 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 father, entrepreneur, manager, supervisor, yeah? Yeah? So tell me about the person, but without mentioning her name.
No responsibility.
No responsibility. Okay, that doesn't take responsibility. Yeah? That's good. Let's take that. How am I going to write that here? I'm not going to try. We can take notes. We can take notes, but I think it's too hard to... See, technology is wonderful. We have some limitations. Actually, old-fashioned technology is better here. Doesn't take responsibility. I like that. Another. Because we're talking about the same person, right?
Use emotion to judge the problem.
Emotional judge of problems, right? Responds emotionally. Yeah? That's a bad thing? What if the emotions are positive emotions?
but sometimes it can be bad. You have to think it carefully
And with
before
logic.
judge the problems.
Realistic.
Yeah, so reacting emotionally is an interesting, and I'll definitely come back to that. It's a really good example of worst leaders, because in a workplace, actually, you don't want somebody reacting emotionally. We don't want somebody saying you're a miserable person. I don't like you. It's irrelevant, right? It's irrelevant. What you're focused on is the task or the goal, right? So this is an important thing to remember. Yeah, another. Let's see if we can keep with the one worst leader for the moment. So we've just got this one person that they have in mind, but if necessary, we'll come to you next, okay? And then we'll create a composite worst leader. Yeah.
Don't know the potential efficient of the team.
Doesn't know the potential efficiency or the potential capability of the team, right? That seems a good one. Yeah? Doesn't know the potential capability of the team. Okay? You've got another one?
Not humble.
Not humble, arrogant. Yeah? So actually we're saying what did he or she do? So act arrogantly or not acting humbly, maybe?
Yes.
Will do. Yeah? So we got humbly, humble, not acting humbly, acting arrogantly. Yeah? Okay? And you have one more? I'll let you focus on this terrible person. No. Not terrible person, terrible leader. One more?
Couldn't explain the word to be clearly.
Couldn't explain the work clearly. That's interesting. Wasn't able to explain the work clearly. Okay, 4 very good examples. Thank you very much. Now, let's assume we're talking about the same person. Mustafa, no, young lady, sorry, your name.
Tasneem.
Tasneem.
Okay, so.
Please add to this worst leader.
Okay, so to talk about that worst leader, I want to say one thing that one of the characteristics of a leader is being the solution to problems. But what if a leader, rather than being the solution to problems, she even make the situations even more problematic?
Okay, so not being the solution to the problem,
Yes.
making the problem worse.
Yes.
Okay, that'll do. Yeah, we'll take that. One more. Mustafa?
Not a good speaker.
Not a good speaker. That's an interesting one. Does a leader have to be a good speaker? Interesting.
Yes.
You think so? Yeah.
I do, yes.
So what do you mean by not a good speaker? Is it somebody like me who
Not
stands at the front of the class?
Not exactly. To have the ability to convince your group or the people who follows you. And on the other hand, when you speak, you have to have the idea what you're speaking about. And about the solution and the situation.
This is a very interesting thing as well, because sometimes, you probably know this from your work on apps, right? Sometimes the leader doesn't know as much about different things as the team members, right? So the team members, a good team, the team members will know different things. But the team leader maybe doesn't know as much about some things as some of the team members. In other words, you don't have to know everything to be the boss.
Yes.
But if you pretend to know everything, that's a problem, right? A bad leader is somebody who pretends to know the solution to everything, right? I'll take that. That's very nice. Thank you very much, both Tasneem and Mustafa. Anybody else want to add some more behaviors of the worst leader? Yes, sir.
Somebody who reacts instead of responds.
Somebody who reacts instead of responds. Tell me a little bit more about that. I like it.
So when the situation occurs, you don't immediately go forward and react. You study the situation, you see what's wrong, and you respond with the solution.
Okay, so this is a little bit like the emotional person, right? Immediately coming out with a reaction rather than considering, listening, talking to different people. And this can be a huge problem if the problem is a problem between different people. right? That can be a huge problem, where I listen to you because you say you've got a problem with her, but I don't listen to her, right? That can be a huge problem. Yeah. Okay. One more? You're happy with that? We've got 7 items so far, I think. So I think we're doing okay. Anybody want to add one more act of a bad leader? The worst leader? Yes, sir.
Constructive criticism, he has to open for the constructive criticism. Because, for example, if you are a leader and if you think you are the right every time, so that is not the situation here. Because the followers, they might have the better ideas or the solution for the problems. And instead, if you think, okay, you are going the right way and your followers has to follow you, no matter what, I think that is not the way of being a leader.
So how can we put that into a 3 words?
So you have to be open for the constructive criticism. You can be wrong sometimes.
Open. So the worst leader is somebody not open
Yes.
to constructive criticism.
Yes.
And
So-
acknowledging the mistakes.
Acknowledging mistakes, yeah. So I came late, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I tried to be good.
No one is beyond mistakes. So even a leader can make a mistake.
Everybody makes mistakes, yeah. So, but if you pretend that you don't make mistakes, that's a problem,
Yeah.
right? So the worst leader is somebody who pretends that they never make a mistake. Thank you very much, Saeed. And Asmita. Asmita. Saeed, Asmita, Mustafil, and Tasneem. Tasneem?
Yes.
Yeah? And our friends at the back?
M.
M? M and Arm. M and Arm. Maybe surprised. High names are very easy. Okay, so very quickly then, let's maybe we can think about what the best leader does, right? And I think this is a lot easier. So we'll just think a little bit about what the best leader does, right? So, yeah, unselfish. Okay, unselfish is good. It's an adjective. So acting unselfishly, right? Acting unselfishly. Example. Of course, now you have to think of somebody new.
When failure occurs, they will not blame your team.
When failure happens, you don't blame your team. You take the blame yourself, right?
When success occurs, you can encourage the team. You will not
Encourage the team, yeah? Stand up for the team, yeah? Maybe, as you said, maybe the team has not been successful in this particular task, right? But the team leader doesn't blame the team members, right? The team leader accepts responsibility. The flip side, right? And then we talked about emotion on the worst leader. So the best leader,
To be realistic.
realistic is one way of understanding it. Not being emotional, we need to reframe it a little bit. Yeah, not being emotional doesn't really capture this, does it? It's focusing on the task, not the person, right? The emotional leader focuses on the person. You're bloody useless. Why did you do that? God, I'm going to make sure that you never work for this company. It's not about the person, it's about the task, right? So the best leader is somebody who will give credit and will focus on the task, focus on the work, right? What else? Inspiring. This is really important because often when we think of leaders, we think of inspirational people, right? And actually, inspiration is important, and I'll come back to that, right? I've got 45 minutes left, and I recognize that inspiration is something we're going to have to address, right? Anything else? Yeah.
He's appreciative. He appreciates every little thing.
Appreciates every little thing. Yeah. Gives credit.
Yeah.
Thanks. Appreciates. That's great. That's brilliant. Yeah.
A motivator. A motivator.
A motivator. Motivates the staff. Motivates the team. Motivates the children. Yeah. So a good mother or a father is somebody that motivates their children, not punishes them. Okay. And then the question we haven't really come on to is how did you react? And if we take the best leader only, how do you feel if somebody is doing these things?
So
appreciating you. Yes, sir.
if you're working with one of the best leaders or the traits we have discussed of the best leader, you never get tired of your work.
Never get tired of your work. Isn't that wonderful?
Yes, sir, that's great.
Isn't that wonderful? Work, if you're working with a really good leader, the best leader, you'll never be tired of your work. You'll never feel there's a need to take a holiday because everything you're doing is enjoyable. You don't need a holiday. The worst leader will take advantage of you for that. But the best leader will say, maybe you need to take a holiday. So the best leader creates an environment where you never need to take a holiday because you love your work. Yeah?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah? What else? So the reaction is love the work. Yes, sir?
So for example, like there's a leader that he appreciates every little thing. So for example, he appreciates you and then I will react like I get less depressed and more motivated to work. And then we usually like thank him as well for being an example for us. And then of course you need to acknowledge him as a leader and of course tell others so that the team will work as one unit.
Okay. But remember that the good leader is not somebody that is looking for praise.
Yeah.
Right? The best kind of leader is not somebody that's looking for praise. The best kind of leader is somebody else, right? The best kind of leader gives the praise, gives the thanks, gives the appreciation. Yeah? So I'll take that. Anybody else? One more. Yes, ma'am.
Can I see a reaction to the worst leader?
Yeah, please. A reaction to the worst leader. Yeah.
Communicate directly to that leader. Instead of being the root of a networking of backstabbers, communicate directly to him. Tell him what you observe about him, but be cautious and be sensitive towards your choice of words so that you might not hurt him anymore.
Okay, there's a complex idea in there, and I just want to. So this is a reaction to the worst leader, right? So what you're talking about here is how you should react to the worst leader. But first of all, the worst leader will have a negative impact on most of their team, their followers, etc. Right? So what you're saying is, okay, I'm not going to react negatively. I'm going to react positively. I'm going to try and help the leader, right? But then you're becoming a leader, right? You see that? You're taking a leadership role by helping that leader. It's complicated. I'll come back to that later. Yes,
So
sir.
the question was, how did you react in the past?
Yeah.
So we both were discussing and we came to the same conclusion that we became rebels. And we
Rebels.
became
You become rebels.
Rebels.
Yeah. Yeah. Outcasts.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And that seriously messed up our grades.
Yeah.
Those subjects.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So it didn't help you.
Yes, sir.
It didn't help you. But the best kind of leader, again, maybe one of the measures would be the students get great grades. How we measure that, we have to look at a very large population, I think. We can't just take it on the class by class. Okay, very good. So I think I need to now go back to the presentation. Is it here? And then we can go there. Good. Yeah. And so we've got that. I'm going to skip that for the moment. If there's one website that, and one group of people that actually publish a lot of really interesting articles and ideas about leadership, and this is the World Economic Forum. Have you heard of this?
Yes.
Okay, so tell me quickly about the World Economic Forum.
Well, I read some articles in there, and it's about they actually go through the leaders of this present world and they diagnose how they work and their way of behaving toward problems. So it's basically, well, the articles that I have read, it's basically about certain people and their behavior and their way of working as a leader.
Okay. So I've put links to many of those articles in this presentation, and we can make copies available later, and maybe a soft copy is the best. The World Economic Forum is a group of people that gathers every year in Davos in Switzerland, right? It consists of political leaders, but also business leaders. People like Mark Zuckerberg, or Sheryl Sandberg of Facebook. They could be community leaders, they could be young entrepreneurs, they could be youth leaders, they could be people like the young lady from Pakistan who won the Nobel Peace Prize. Malala, yeah. So all of these people have been to Davos and they've participated in the discussions. It has a strong corporate sense. So often maybe the community side, the social side is not really heavily emphasized. Political leaders, people like Bill Clinton and Tony Blair are often there. And leaders of many of your countries will have been to Davos at some point. So it's political, it's business, it's social, and it's ideas as well. Okay? And they write about a whole number of different areas. The work they publish, coming back to your observation, they publish work, or they write about work that is typically done by other people. So the research on leadership is done in many of the best universities in the world. WEF spread the word. They spread the word about what leadership means. So again, the ideas that I'm focusing on here, a lot of these ideas, you can read more about them through the WEF, the World Economic Forum websites, okay? Now, I'm just going to focus on a couple of things because we don't have a lot of time. I'm very happy and very grateful to AIT Solutions for giving me more time than last time. I tried to do all of this in 45 minutes last time. A little bit tough. I'm just going to look at a couple of interesting graphics here. This is research that was done about the skills that need to go into the curriculum. What do people need when they're graduating from university? So you've got something called foundational literacies. Literacy, numeracy, scientific literacy, ICT literacy, financial literacy, often missing, right? If you think about your own education, sometimes some of these are missing. Some you focus on. There's always a strong focus on maybe your own language skills and numeracy, basic mathematics, calculations, etc. But then financial literacy maybe is not included in every curriculum at school. And then we've got cultural and civic literacy. What does it mean to be a Pakistani? What does it mean to be an Indian? Where are you from in India? Mumbai. What does it mean to be a citizen of Mumbai? A Gujarati? No, not a Gujarati. A Mumbai citizen, yeah? So, then we've got competencies. We've got critical thinking, we've got problem skill, solving, creativity, communication and collaboration. Again, 21st century skills here. Collaboration is mentioned as something that we need to have. And then over here, we've got character qualities, and we've got leadership listed at number 15 here. It's not a ranking. It's just that leadership is here as something that you're going to have in the 21st century. And the sense of leadership that is defined here is the sense that we're talking about today, right? That's what we mean by leadership here. Okay. But there's other interesting words as well. Persistence and grit. Have you come across that one before? Grit. Grit. Persistence/grit. Can you read that, by the way? Can you see? No? Difficult?
Yeah.
Okay. I can't make it bigger, I'm afraid. I don't think I can make it bigger, can I? That's the limit. Sorry.
It's okay.
That's okay. Thank you. Yes, sir.
So grit is basically strength, robustness.
Yeah, grit is this idea of strength and robustness, not giving up easily, right? Being able to persist, continue with something even though the challenges are great. It's related to problem solving, but it's about attitude. It's much more concerned with attitude. Curiosity. God, this is so important to think about curiosity. How do we create curiosity in young people? How does a good teacher, how does the best teacher teach curiosity?
Being hunger for innovation.
Could be, yeah. Innovation is an interesting word, we'll come to that. But a good teacher will create curiosity about everything that you learn. A good teacher will help create a curiosity in every subject in the school, not just subjects related to innovation, and so will a good mother and father. Adaptability, leadership, social and cultural awareness, right? These are all characters or qualities. But then there's some more interesting lists here. And again, this is based on large-scale research. So, in 2020, 3 years' time, so we're kind of in the middle now between 2020 and 2015, right? In fact, we're exactly in the middle, right? 2.5 years, 16, 15, 16, yeah, kind of. Maybe not. My mathematics. But 2015, the research showed that complex problem solving was the most important, coordinating with others, people management, critical thinking, negotiation, quality control, service orientation, judgment and decision making, active listening, and creativity. How many of those deal with leadership? Because leadership's not there. These are skills, right?
I think all of them.
All of them seem to deal with leadership, right?
Yes.
Certainly, maybe complex problem solving, it can be an individual thing, but the word is complex, involves teamwork. Yeah? Complex problem solving happens amongst teams. Right? It's not something that you do individually, right? Coordinating with other people. Wow, so important. And so many people are so bad at it. You know one thing I don't like about modern life? You're walking around and people are like this all the time and they've got their headphones in. And they're looking at this. And then you look over their shoulder and what are they doing? Playing a game or something or chatting with a friend. Every city in the world has happened, right? There's no awareness of what's happening around. And ultimately this will make coordinating with others more difficult. But at the same time, there are really important social skills that are being developed through some things on this, so it's not all bad, and we've all got one, right? Everybody's got one, so we can't criticize it too much. It's how you use it. People management. Now, then we look at what's important in 2020. What are the big movements that you see? Complex problem solving is still there, right? So we have to learn complex problem solving, but number 2 now, critical thinking. And I'd say that's even more important today. Creativity, up from number 10 to number 3. People management, still right there at the top. Coordinating with others, maybe less important because the others are more important now, right? Okay, you get the picture. Service orientation is still there. Negotiation, down from 5 to 9. What does this mean? Number 10, I think that's new, right? Cognitive flexibility. Cognitive flexibility. Any thoughts?
You must not be very rigid on
Not rigid in your... There's something we call mental models. And if you have mental models, you say, this is how we do something, right? This is what a teacher does. This is what a mother does. So, cognitive flexibility means that you throw away your prejudged ideas on something, and only that way are you able to liberate your thinking, right? So, cognitive flexibility is being able to move without being limited by your own ideas. One of the important aspects of leadership that I want to talk about, I'm going to accelerate a little bit at this point because I just have until 2:30. I'm a trainer in situational leadership. Has anybody come across this before? Yeah? Any students of management here? Yeah. Students of management? Okay, you may have come across situational leadership in your organizational change, organizational behavior, even human resource management. We can talk about leadership. So, situational leadership is all about, is a leadership model that was developed by Ken Blanchard and another guy called Percy. But Ken Blanchard is the founder of situational leadership. And normally this is a one-week training course, so I'm just going to do a couple of slides here just to show what we mean. situational leadership is defined in these terms. It's about learning a new language of leadership. It's about increasing the quality and the quantity of conversations that we have. And it's about helping others to develop self-reliance. Right? So the whole situational leadership model is based on these three ideas. A new language, increasing the quality and quantity of conversations, and developing others' self-reliance. So a leader is somebody who has conversations. And the types of conversations that you have will involve a certain kind of language. Right? So what do we mean by language? Urdu, English, Hindi? No, not languages in that sense, but specific words and meanings that we use to talk about leadership. So in Blanchard's case, we talk about competencies and commitments, and these have very specific meanings. Did you know what I did then? Who does that?
I know.
Donald Trump, right?
Yeah.
Sorry.
That can be.
I don't really like Donald Trump, but somehow we've been watching him do that for 2 years now, and it becomes infectious. Sorry. Competency and commitment. These are two words in situational leadership. By competence, Blanchard means that we have skills and knowledge that are transferable, and skills and knowledge that are job or task specific. Okay? So all of us think we know what competence means, right? Blanchard says throw away the meaning of competence, because competence here means transferable knowledge and skills and task or goal specific knowledge or skills. Right? So we take Donald Trump, because I've introduced Donald Trump. Yes. Donald Trump was a businessman, right? And he said that his competencies as a business manager were transferable to the presidency of the United States, right? So the skills and knowledge that you use from running a business are transferable to being the President of the United States. And the American people believed that. Or they believed it, enough American people believed that. In reality, you have to look at that carefully. Because running a business is a fairly simple thing compared to
Being a president. Being a president?
being a president, being the president of the country. And so there may be some tasks, some skills and knowledge that is transferable, but most of what Donald Trump needed as president of the United States were task specific and goal specific, right? So this is an example of Blanchard language. Competence means transferable knowledge and skills, and job specific or task specific knowledge and skills, right? But this is the core of the issue. It's about better conversations. So conversations between mother and son, right? Conversations between supervisor and manager, maybe, could be, yeah. Conversations between student and teacher, yeah, exactly. Conversations between mentors and proteges, trainees, yeah, thank you. Nobody said mentee, right? I hate the word mentee. I'm sure some of my colleagues will talk about mentees later. I hate the word. But I'm not allowed to say I hate it, right? I should be positive. Mentors and proteges, mentors and trainers, mentors and learners, much better, yeah? And ultimately, what Blanchard talks about is developing self-reliance in others. And so, this is all about again, the model of leadership in Blanchard is about creating optimally motivating environments. Optimally motivating. Wow, what does that mean? Optimally motivating environments. Jelani. This is what you talked about, right? The best leaders create optimally motivating environments. An optimally motivating environment is an environment where you don't want to go home. You're happy to stay all night, right? Have you seen pictures of the new Apple campus in California? Or the Google campus, or the Facebook campus? These are companies that really take this seriously about how you create an optimally motivating environment. But it's not just about the place, right? The environment is about the people, right? The most important people, or the most important thing here is you and me. It's not the room, right? Rooms are variable. Technology is variable. But the people. So when we talk about optimally motivating environments, it's the people in the environment that's important. And then this is the model. And the goal is to do above average work, give discretionary effort, be a good citizen, stay indoors. There's a move from appraisals of leadership behaviour, senses of well-being, and it's measured in the end by results. Okay? So you can look online, you can read about Blanchard. At some future time, we can perhaps run more sessions on Blanchard. But I'm going to come back to this, because this AIT Tiger Leon International Innovation and Leadership Camp, right? Leadership and innovation. And I'm very lucky because I get to be the first person to put these two words together, right? And I think some of you have already mentioned some really important aspects of this. So, I'm going to talk about a study published again in an academic journal by two professors from Harvard Business School, right? And they studied exceptional leaders of innovation, right? So we wanted to find out what do exceptional leaders do? Not all the blah, blah, blah that you've heard from me so far, but what do they actually do, right? And what does it take to be a leader of innovation? Okay, and this is where we hear things like inspiration, visionary, right? An innovative leader is somebody who's inspirational and visionary. That's not what these two people, Linda Hill and Wallace Donham, not what they found. They found that everybody was a visionary, sure, but that wasn't what distinguished them. They were visionaries who were capable of creating a vision and inspiring others to pursue it, but none of them actually considered being a visionary to be their primary role as a leader. Right? None of them thought that visionary part of it was what defined their jobs. What were they? Social architects. And haven't we seen this word social before today? Yeah? What was the earlier use of social that we saw? Social influence.
So we talked about the World Economic Forum.
We talked about the World Economic Forum, yeah?
And you said that social issues are also discussed over there.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So this idea of social comes back again here, and we've got this idea of social and communicative are kind of intertwined a lot here, right? So, these exceptional leaders, what did they do? They were social architects. They created communities in which others were willing and able to innovate. So now we've introduced the word innovation, right? So they created the environment. And here, we're not talking about environment, we're talking about communities. So what do we mean by communities here? I think communities is understood in a micro sense. This is a community for the next 2 weeks. the next 2 weeks, this is your community. I'm not really part of your community because I won't be with you so much, but you will be, right? So this is the community, right? I'm not really part of the community, but you're part of the community of AIT, and I think that's important too. But community is here not understood in a large sense. Bangkok, Payatai, Ari, whatever. It's understood in the micro sense of a team or a group of people or an organization working together. Yeah? And then innovation is a journey, a collaborative problem-solving process where discoveries happen through a process of trial and error, false starts, and even mistakes. I think those words are really important too, right? False starts and mistakes. Good things, right? False starts and mistakes are good things. Agreed? Yeah. You only learn through making mistakes. If everything you do is perfect all the time, if your teacher just says, okay, you just have to repeat what's in the textbook and you memorize that, you write it out in the exam every time, something's missing. So you create an environment in which you can make mistakes. And that environment cannot include a manager or a supervisor or a leader saying, you stupid person, what did you do that for? Or I'm not giving you a pay increment because you made this mistake, right? That kind of thinking and that kind of behavior is completely antithetical to the idea of an innovative social architecture. Yes, sir?
Yes. So for example,
Yeah.
if you being a leader and one of your followers making same mistake over and over again, and now you are trying to be nice and humble, and in a situation like he or she is actually making this, the case worse because that person is repeatedly making this mistake, what do? You still be nice or you shout?
You never shout. We have to go, this is why I introduced Blanchard, right? It's about the quality of the conversation. Now, I'll just mention a little bit more about Blanchard at this point. Because what Blanchard does, he looks at leadership from a task-specific perspective, right? So, tell me one thing that you do that you're really good at. Don't be too humble.
Being straightforward. Straightforward, being bold.
No,
I mean,
I also think about things like, I'll give you one example. I have a new car. Luckily, I'm a really good driver. I've been driving for 35 years, okay? So I think I'm a great driver. What are you good at?
Playing chess.
Playing chess is great, yeah. Tell me something that you've never done before that you would really like to do.
Skydiving. Skydiving.
Skydiving. Okay, this is really interesting. Right. So, have you ever parachuted?
I have, yes.
You parachuted, but you've never skydived.
Yes.
Very good. So this is a really good example. So parachuting is a little bit like skydiving in that you jump out of aeroplanes. Right? Anything else?
Yes. Anything else on?
No, I mean, are there any other skills and knowledge that you can transfer from parachuting to skydiving? How to? Yep. Yeah. You've still got to open the parachute at the end, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And parachuting, I parachuted too, and when I parachuted, the parachute opens automatically. I wouldn't consider myself to be a very good at skydiving. I certainly wouldn't consider myself to be very good at parachuting. Right. So the point here is that when Blanchard looks at something, he looks at it from a task or a goal. He cannot say, oh, this Mustafil, he's a brilliant person. No, he looks at your competence and commitment in playing chess. And he looks at your competence and commitment in skydiving. So in skydiving, you've never done it, right?
No.
So we can say here that your development level is 1. But chess, you say you're very good.
Yes.
You play in tournaments,
I have, yes. In my school.
and you're successful.
Sorry?
Did you win?
I have, but
You won.
Yes.
Okay, don't be humble. Don't be humble. So we can say that at chess, your development level is 4. So what Blanchard does is to match the development level with the leadership style. So for skydiving, your development level is 1.
Yes.
And therefore you need leadership style 1. For chess, you are development level 4, and therefore you need leadership style 4.
I'm a little confused here.
Yeah.
So my actual question is,
Yeah.
for example, you being a leader, and
Yeah.
the person who follows you, you're trying to mobilize him or her toward a common goal.
Yeah, and you said you shout at them.
I didn't. I didn't say that. I said that could be an option. But anyway, so
Okay. First I want to deal with that. It's never an option. Second, a leader
a wrong option.
has better conversations with the person. So if we think about chess, right? Chess is something you're really good at. Now, if I come in and I'm giving you advice on playing chess, I have to recognize that you already know a lot, you're very good at playing chess, and therefore the advice that I give you is going to be different, right? Now, skydiving will require different leadership style. The person who makes mistakes
Yes.
is at a different development level,
Yes.
right? The person who makes mistakes may be somebody who's fairly new, but they haven't yet learned how to do the job properly, right? So that person is going to need a lot of maybe support
Solution.
and a lot of direction,
Yes. Selection.
right? So this is what this is all about. It's about different conversations for different situations. So what you never do, you never scream and shout and you never get angry with somebody. That's never part of the solution. It's about having different conversations with the different people. Does that make sense?
Yes, but in real life, the situation could be different. You know.
Yeah, I appreciate
You
that.
go to the community and you want to welcome something, and you have these people who has no idea about the things that you're trying to do for them, and you try and convince, and yet they're just pulling you back. They're not letting you to work, or they're not being convinced simply, and then you give these constructive ideas like you try all hard, and still that person is not working the way you want her to work.
Yeah.
So what do? That's the difficult situation.
Okay.
in the world.
And it's a really difficult situation. It's still a little bit abstract, but I'm gonna try and give a general answer before we move on.
Okay.
What you do first of all is take a step back and you try to redefine the task. Because already we've established, haven't we, now, Meha? You look very cold. Yeah? Sorry, I finish soon and then you can get some hot air outside. We've
Take a step back.
old heads. Take a step back. Very good. Somebody's listening. Take a step back and redefine the task. So the people you're working with, you want them to be social innovators, you want them to be change agents, blah, blah, blah. Probably something like that, right? So what you actually need to do is to step back first and redefine the task. Once the task is redefined, then you can say, how good are they at that task? And what's the right approach? How much support and how much direction do you need to give? Because possibly the first thing that they need is more direction. You need to tell them what to do, and then you need to support them as well. This is the Blanchard language that's coming in here. And without spending too long on this because we can discuss this at a later stage. I think this is the answer to the question is being clear as a leader what the goal or the task is. So the first thing that a Blanchard leader does is to define clearly what the goal is. You've probably heard of SMART goals, right? Specific. You heard of SMART goals? SMART goals? Okay, so the first skill is to be able to set SMART goals. So that's what we need to do. Not part of my talk at this point, I'm afraid. But let me just go forward on this. Where were we? We were here, I think. So this is about the trial and error, the false starts. Yeah. So false starts. It sounds to me like you had a false start there, right? And the false start is because the people you were working with, they were like, I don't know, not interested. So then you need to step back and try and define what the problem or what the issue is here. What do you need to do? Because probably what's happened there is a familiar development problem where you've identified a population that you want to work with, but the population doesn't really want to work with you. That's a familiar problem in this thing we call development, right? You go in there, you want to help the people, but the people say, "No, I don't want to be helped." Yeah? So there's an issue there, right? It's common. It's very common. Right. So there's three key organizational capabilities that are required here. And what are we talking about here? Exceptional leaders of innovation. And so three things here. Creativity seems to figure big here. Creative abrasion. What's that? Any ideas? Abrasion is where different ideas, different solutions start banging up against each other. And an optimal environment is an environment where those different ideas can lead to something better, not something worse, right? So a creative abrasion is where different opinions, different ideas, different frameworks, different models come together to create something better. Innovation. Yeah? Creative abrasion. Yeah?
We can use the word coexistence.
It's more than that. The idea of abrasion is when things are rough.
Right.
Have you ever felt a cat's tongue?
Yes.
Has a cat ever licked you? Have you ever felt a dog's tongue?
Yes, sir.
Sorry, this is not very nice for you, I know, but if you've ever had a pet, you know this. Cats have got very rough tongues, right? So, an abrasion involves a little bit of tension.
I follow.
But as a leader, your job is to make that into something bigger, something better, right? What it can do, if it's a non-optimally motivating environment, is to discourage people. Because maybe this guy, he's too loud, he's too insistent, he's too, but you want everybody coming together, and then their ideas. As a leader, you're creating an environment where that difference is a good thing. If you have a team where everybody thinks the same, it's a problem, right? Because if everybody's thinking the same, they all agree, oh, that's a good idea. No, you don't want that. You want difference. Yeah? But the team leader's job is to enable that difference, right? And creative agility. Over here, we talk about mental models, right? Where we get stuck in inflexible thinking, right? Inflexible. The worst leader, inflexible. This is the right way to do this. No other way is possible. Actually, no, sir. Many ways are possible, but you need to have creative flexibility to be able to see that. Throw away your mental models, start with, or allow a new mental model to emerge. And creative resolution. What's the outcome of the abrasion, the creative abrasion, and the creative agility is creative resolution. So these three ideas define what kind of optimally motivating environment is required for innovation. And there are qualities, a little bit easier to explain these, I think. We've got common purpose, we've got shared values, and we've got mutual rules of engagement. So again, what are we doing here? We're creating an optimally motivating environment for innovation. In order to do that, you have to have shared values. Shared values. Well, we could talk a lot about shared values, couldn't we? Right? Shared values about what? Yeah, the purpose. I think it's going to be the shared, what's important in the organization, right? What's important in life. You know, I mean, shared values could be almost anything, but within a team, you have to have some agreement on what those values are. So that if somebody says, no, I'm going to tell you what to do, those are different values, right? The shared values will include teamwork, for example. Mutual rules of engagement. The rules of engagement, how do we deal with conflict? Right? Could be a mutual rule of engagement. Dealing with conflict is necessary. If conflict becomes personal, we have a problem, right?
Yes.
I don't like you, therefore get out. No, I want you here, even though you may be a difficult person to work with. But as a leader, my job is to bring you together and to enable you to be part of that team. Not about the person. Not about the person. So a leader, this is critically important because we've all been in situations, certainly I've been in situations, many situations, maybe you too, where you really can't stand the people you work with. Right? Familiar? Yeah, it happens to everybody, right? But the leader is somebody who is able to put that aside, put aside the fact that that person is a difficult person and bring the best out of that person. Okay. Yeah. Leadership and innovation. Leaders of innovation are stage setters, they're not performers. It's a bit ironic because I've been standing here performing a lot, right? And for me, being a teacher, there's a little bit of performativeness about what we do, performativity, right? We have to perform. And what I prefer is actually that a lot of these ideas come out in group discussion and you arrive at the ideas yourself. It's not possible. I have an hour and a half. I want to set the stage for the week, right? And therefore there's a little bit of performance here. So performance and stage setting are not mutually exclusive. Steve Jobs. Who was Steve Jobs?
The founder of Apple.
Founder of Apple. Have you seen videos of Steve Jobs giving presentations?
Yes.
Good? Very good. Very good. So as a performer, brilliant. And we can talk about that another time in terms of why Steve Jobs was a great performer, right? But his most important talent was as a stage setter. What was his background? He wasn't a technology guy. He was a design and marketing guy. Marketing, particularly, I think, right? The designer is Johnny Ives, but the skill that Steve Jobs brought. Storytelling was critical. He was a marketer, basically. Apple is about marketing. There's a lot of nice stories we can talk about why we love these things, right? That's another day, another story. But stage setting is important. Setting the stage, creating an enabling environment. Yeah? And an interesting quote here. This is about creative abrasion as well. Do we have the patience to amplify differences even when the discussions become heated and when ambiguity and complexity loom? Some leaders run away from that. Whoa, conflict. No. You've got to be able to turn that into something positive. And this is what this amplifying the differences, taking what's important from the differences. Lots of references, so if we can make a copy or maybe an email it. Yeah, it's already online. Even the updated one? So the updated one can replace the one there. There's the last nice. It's about listening. It's about silence, being silent. So great leaders they need to listen a lot more and they need to think. And it's harder to think and talk at the same time. Listening and talking at the same time. So leaders are often silent. But that's not enough in itself, because you're not going to create the right environment just by being silent. You've got to be proactive. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.